performs respiration or breathing. You breathe through your mouth or your nose. Better to breathe through your nose than your mouth. Your nose has hairs that filter. Your nose warms and moistens the air. It has mucus that germs will stick to. And your nose and your mouth are connected. If you've ever been eating or drinking milk and somebody made you laugh and milk came out your nose, that's because it's all connected back here at the back of your throat. The back of your throat being your pharynx. When you feel the front of your neck, what you're feeling is your trachea and your larynx. Your esophagus is behind that. Remember, your esophagus is part of your digestive system. That leads to your stomach. We're going to talk about the trachea today, which is at the bottom of your voice box or your larynx. La, 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 larynx. If you have a big voice box, you have a low voice. If you have a little voice box, you have a high voice. And all those ridges that you feel on the front of your neck are rings of cartilage that keep your windpipe open for breathing. Another word for windpipe is trachea. And at the very top, there's like a little door that opens and closes called your epiglottis. And when you swallow food, the epiglottis closes over your trachea so that food doesn't go down the wrong pipe. Trachea is kept open with rings, the letter C, rings of cartilage. That's what your nose and your tips of your ears are made out of. Your trachea splits into a right and left bronchus. Remember when we talked about the heart, when you're looking at the lungs or you're looking at the heart, it's as if you've taken them out of your body and flipped them over to look at the front of them. So they're not facing the same way you are. So that means that the left is on the right and the right is on the left on all of these pictures. And one of your lungs is actually larger than your other one. Your right lung is slightly bigger. Your left lung is smaller because it has to have room for your heart. And these tubes, if you have asthma, you've heard of these, are bronchial tubes. They get smaller and smaller and smaller. If you have asthma, you know that your bronchial tubes are the ones that close shut. You need an inhaler to try to open them back up again. Because at the end of all these bronchial tubes are these very important air sacs called alveoli. And that's where the air has to get to. It's the air sacs called alveoli. They look like little grapes at the end of each bronchial tube. Alveoli. There we go. And at the end of all of these bronchial tubes, there's a whole bunch of alveoli. It looks like grapes on a stalk. And those alveoli are air sacs surrounded by capillaries. Capillaries are the tiniest of blood vessels. In the Cells at Work video we saw, the red blood cell was squeezing through the hallway, like just barely being able to squeeze through. She was in a capillary as she was dropping off carbon dioxide or picking up oxygen. Inside these capillaries in the alveoli, oxygen is going from your mouth down into these little alveoli, into the blood, and then your blood is releasing carbon dioxide that it picked up from your cells, so you can breathe it out and get rid of that carbon. Breathing is possible through a muscle called your diaphragm. Diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle, and when it contracts, you inhale. When it relaxes, you exhale. So dome means it's shaped sort of like this, and when it pulls down, you inhale. When it relaxes, you exhale, you breathe out. And that's breathing. That's the function of your respiratory system. Fancy word for breathing is respiration. And inside these tubes are little tiny hairs called cilia, and they're constantly beating upwards, beating upwards, beating upwards, and they're carrying debris, pollen, and stuff that you've inhaled, and they bring it all the way up until you feel that little tickle in the back of your throat, and then you cough or sneeze those foreign particles out. It helps to protect you. And that is your respiratory system. Remember, back from the cell unit, the mitochondria was the lungs of the cell because it soaked up oxygen and released carbon dioxide, very much like the respiratory system, the lungs do in your body.